The city of Belverin was no longer bright and beautiful. Thick black smoke covered the blue towers, fires burned everywhere. The screams of the innocent filled the air. The peaceful streets were now covered in dust, broken stones, and blood. Veltraxians ran in every direction, searching for family members, for safe places, or simply for hope. But there was little hope left. The dark ships still floated above the city like evil birds, dropping more soldiers and machines. In a narrow tunnel under the great hall, the human sat against a cold wall. His hands were free now, but he was still, guarded by Captain Zeller and 2 armed soldiers. High Elder Varn stood nearby, watching him carefully. The human's head hung low. His eyes were empty. So many lives. Gone because of me, he whispered. Elder Varn spoke in a soft, serious voice. Perhaps. No. But we have no time for your guilt. If you truly wish to help us, now is the time. The human nodded weakly. He looked at his wrist device, hoping it would come back to life. But its light stayed dark. I need tools. A console. Maybe I can still send a message to stop this. Zeller frowned. Or maybe you will call more of your kind. Vaughn raised a hand. We must take the risk. We have little left to lose. Just then, a young guard ran into the chamber, breathless. Captain, the enemy searches every building. They have scanners. They will come here soon. Zeller's face turned hard. He looked at the human. Right. Then we move. We will hide deeper in the old mines. They left the chamber and walked through long, twisting tunnels. The walls were rough stone here, lit only by small crystal lamps. Human limped along, holding his side where he had been cut by falling glass. His guilt was a heavy weight. Every step reminded him of the faces he had seen screaming in the streets. At last they reached an old mining hall. Broken carts and tools lay scattered. Strange glowing insects crawled over the walls. Elder Varn sat down on a large rock. Zeller placed guards at every tunnel mouth. The human found a dusty console half buried under rubble. He wiped it off and tried to start it. The screen flickered, then glowed faintly. Old system, but maybe I can use it. He started pressing. Buttons, typing commands in slow, shaking hands. Data lines danced across the screen. If I can send a false signal to the Earth ships, make them think the resources here are poisoned, they might pull back. Varn's eyes brightened. Do it. But before the human could finish, a loud voice echoed through the tunnels. It was deep and mechanical, coming from a floating drone. Attention. Surrender the human. You will not be harmed. The guards raised their spears. The drone's red eye glowed brighter. You have 10 seconds. Zeller shouted, protect the human. Fall back. The guards fired energy bolts at the drone. Sparks flew and it crashed to the ground, but more buzzing sounds came from the tunnels. Dozens of drones floated in, their claws clicking. Run, Varn yelled. They rushed down a side tunnel. The human ran as fast as he could, though pain stabbed his side. Behind them, drones fired beams that cut into the stone, making walls explode. A young guard was hit. He fell with a scream, half his chest burned away. The human flinched, tears filling his eyes. Why did it come to this? He whispered. They kept running until they found a small crack in the tunnel wall. Zeller pushed the human inside first, then the others followed. They waited there in the darkness, breath held. Drones flew past the crack, missing them by inches. After some time, the tunnel grew quiet. Zeller let out a slow breath. They will come back. They will search every hole until they find us. Varn turned to the human. Now you see, not just, our people hunt you? Your own kind hunts you too? You are wanted by all? The human closed his eyes. I know, and I deserve it. But I will not run. I will help you fight them. Zeller snorted. How? With your guilt. The human opened his eyes. They were tired, but now there was a spark of fire inside. With everything I know about them, their weapons, their ships, their mines, I was trained to destroy you. Now I will use that to save you. Varn gave a small nod. Then you shall stay with us. But know this, many of my people will still wish you dead. You may be helping us, but you are still the cause of our pain. The human lowered his head. I understand. He sat in. Silence. Outside the crack, shadows moved. Enemy soldiers searched the tunnels, their heavy steps echoing through the stone. The human took a deep breath. Inside, his guilt burned like a wound. But beside it, a new feeling grew, a desperate, fierce need to make things right. He would try, even if everyone wanted him dead. Even if he had to die to stop the war he had started. The tunnels were cold and dark. The human sat against a rough wall, his head in his hands. Around him, Veltraxian guards watched carefully, their energy spears ready. Captain Zeller paced back and forth like a restless beast. High Elder Varn stood a little apart, his eyes fixed on the human. A small campfire burned in the middle. It did little to warm them, but it gave a circle of light in the heavy darkness. At last, Varn spoke. His voice was calm, but carried an edge of steel. You told us you came by accident, that your ship crashed. You did not mean for this to happen. The human nodded slowly, his face pale. Yes, I told you the truth. But not the whole truth, Varn said sharply. Why does your wrist device carry codes that call these ships? Why do you know how to hack them? Who are you really? The human was silent. He looked into the fire. The flames danced, lighting up old pain on his face. Zeller stepped forward, eyes burning with anger. Answer him, or I will tear the truth from you. The human took a deep breath. His shoulders slumped. Then he began to speak in a low, tired voice. My name is David Mercer. Was part of Earth's Special Fleet, covert unit. We were sent to worlds like yours. Varn's eyes narrowed. To do what? David's voice broke. Start wars. The Veltraxians around the fire went very still. Even the flames seemed to freeze for a moment. David forced himself to continue. Earth is hungry. Our planet is dying. We need new places, new resources. But it is easier to take than to trade. My team would find peaceful planets, then find ways to make them weak. Stir up fear, make you fight each other, or make you fear us enough to surrender everything. Zeller stepped forward, grabbing David by the front of his torn suit. So you came here to destroy us from inside? David didn't resist. His eyes were wet. Yes, that was the mission. I was supposed to land quietly, plant a beacon that would send signals to Earth ships. Make them think you were hiding weapons, that you were dangerous. He swallowed hard. But when I got here, I saw your markets, your children laughing, your elders teaching songs. You are not threats. You are better than us. Varn's voice was softer now, though still full of pain. Then why did this happen? David shook his head because the signal was automatic. The moment my ship landed, the device activated. I tried to stop it. I tried to send abort codes. They never listened. Earth Command only cares about results. Zeller let go of him with disgust. So you are a traitor to us and to them. A bringer of death who feels sorry only because he failed. David covered his face. You're right. I failed everyone. I couldn't protect your world. I couldn't even stop my own people. There was a long silence. The fire crackled and popped. Somewhere in the tunnels, stones fell, making small echoes. At last, Elder Varn spoke. Do you still wish to help us fight them? David dropped his hands. His eyes were red, but steady now. Yes. With every breath I have left, I want to stop. Earth. I want to save as many of your people as I can. Zeller spat on the ground. Why should we trust you now? Perhaps you will lead us into a trap. David shook his head. Because I have nothing left. Earth will kill me if they find me. Your people would be right to kill me too. But maybe I can do one good thing before I die. Elder Varn studied him for a long moment. Then he turned to Zeller. We have little choice. The enemy knows. These tunnels, they will come again. We need his knowledge. Zeller's jaw tightened. So be it. But if he betrays us once more, I will end him myself. David nodded. Fair. More than fair. They sat together by the fire, making plans. David drew diagrams in the dirt. He showed where Earth-scanning drones were weakest, how their Big ships had blind spots. Told them Earth soldiers carried auto rifles that needed energy packs. If you destroyed the packs, the rifles were useless. He spoke of command codes that might confuse drones. The Veltraxians listened closely. For the first time, Zeller's eyes showed something besides hate, a tiny spark of hope. Then, David pulled out a small chip from a hidden pocket in his suit. This has override codes. If I can get close enough to a command node, I might shut down all nearby drones. Varn touched the chip carefully. That could save many lives. David looked into the elder's eyes, or it could fail. But I will try. I owe your people that. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the tunnel. Dust rained down from the ceiling. Zeller jumped up. They've found us. David gripped the chip. His guilt was still there, heavy like a stone in his chest. That beside it now burned a fierce, desperate courage. He stood up. And let's go. Let me help fix what I broke. So the hunted human who had once come to destroy Veltrax began to plan its defense, even as death crept closer through the dark tunnels. The city of Belverin, on planet Veltrax, was always bright and busy. Tall blue towers touched the sky. Silver flying pods moved in clean lines above wide streets. Shops were full of colorful things. Veltraxians, tall, slim creatures with green skin and shining eyes, laughed and traded goods. Life was calm and full of peace. Then one morning, everything changed. A loud roar came from the sky. People stopped and looked up. A small metal object was falling fast. It broke through the white clouds, burning as it came down. Children pointed at it. Some ran in fear. Others stayed to watch. The object crashed into the ground just outside. The city walls. A huge cloud of dust and fire rose up. Buildings shook, windows cracked. A deep silence followed. Then alarms started ringing all over the city. Guards in silver armor ran toward the crash site. Their hoverbikes left bright trails in the air. Curious citizens followed from a distance. Everyone wanted to see what had fallen from the sky. When the dust settled, the people saw a strange ship. It was broken in many places, smoke coming out from its sides. It looked nothing like the smooth, round ships of Veltrax. Its metal was rough, painted with dark colors. Some writing was scratched on the side, letters no Veltraxian could read. Suddenly, a door on the ship opened. A figure stepped out, coughing. It was short compared to the Veltraxians. It wore a heavy suit, brown and torn. A glass helmet covered its face, but through the cracks, 2 small human eyes could be seen. A Veltrax child whispered to his mother, "What is that?" The mother pulled her child back. "I don't know, but it looks dangerous." Guards surrounded the human quickly. Their energy spears pointed at his chest. The human raised his hands, showing he was unarmed. He looked weak and tired. His leg was bleeding. He tried to speak, but only rough sounds came out. Captain Zeller, the head of the city guard, stepped forward. He spoke calmly but firmly. "Who are you? Why have you come here?" The human touched a device on his wrist. Blinked. Then a small voice box on his shoulder crackled. In broken Veltraxian language it said, "Please, help, crash, no harm." Zeller narrowed his eyes. "We shall see." "Seize him." Guards tied the human's hands and took away a small black bag he carried. They found strange metal rods, a few glowing cubes, and a small picture of a woman, and a child, perhaps his family. The human looked at the picture with sad eyes as they pulled it away. They marched him through the city streets. Crowds gathered, whispering. Some threw small stones. Others looked at him with pity. A few children tried to get closer, but were pulled back by their parents finally. They reached the Great Hall. It was a large building made of white crystal. Inside, the High Council waited 5 Veltraxians with long blue robes and golden crowns. They sat on tall chairs, watching the human with cold eyes. The human was pushed to the center of the hall. He fell to his knees. Blood dripped onto the clean floor. High Elder Varn spoke first. His voice echoed in the hall. "Stranger, you come from the sky, bringing fire and fear. Why are you here? The human tried to speak, but coughed again. Pressed his wrist device. The voice box crackled. Not war. Just lost. Need help. The council members looked at each other. They did not trust him. Earth people were only stories for them. Stories of greedy beings who took what they wanted. Suddenly, the human's wrist device started blinking fast. A red light. Beeping sounds grew louder. Everyone stepped back. Guards raised their spears. Then, a shockwave burst from the device. A circle of blue light spread across the hall. The walls shook. Some windows cracked. Council members covered their faces. A deep mechanical voice came from the human's device. It was not his translator. It was something else. It spoke in a language no Veltraxian understood, but the words sounded dark and heavy. The device projected an image in the air, a map of Veltrax with several red dots blinking all over it. The human stared at it with wide eyes. No, stop, he begged. He tried to smash the device against the floor, but it did not break. The deep voice finished speaking. Then the device went silent. The map disappeared. High Elder Varn stood, his face pale. What have you done, human? The human looked up, tears in his eyes. It's too late. I didn't mean for this. Varn's eyes narrowed. Didn't mean for what? Speak. But before the human could answer, far away in the sky above the city, dark shapes started to appear. Dozens of them. Ships. Big and sharp. Moving quickly through the clouds, the crowd outside screamed. Inside the hall, the human whispered one broken sentence. It's begun. And so, the nightmare started, all because of the stranger who fell from the sky. The sun rose slowly over the city of Belverin. Its golden light touched the blue towers, making them shine like gems. A short moment, everything looked peaceful again. People tried to return to normal life. Merchants opened their shops. Children played in the streets, though they often looked up, afraid of seeing more fire in the sky. Inside the great hall, the High Council argued in loud voices. Guards stood close to the human, who sat on the cold floor with his hands tied. His eyes were red from crying. He kept whispering, I didn't want this. Please believe me. Captain Zeller ignored his words. He was more worried about the dark ships that had appeared yesterday. Scouts had flown out to investigate. Word had returned. Suddenly a loud explosion shook the hall. The floor trembled. Crystals fell from the high ceiling. Everyone froze. Outside, a horrible scene was taking place. The sky was now full of black ships. They were not like the gentle curves of Veltraxian craft. These were sharp and ugly, covered in metal spikes. They flew low, casting dark shadows over the streets. Small flying drones poured out of their bellies, buzzing like angry insects. Then came the first attack. A long beam of red energy shot down from one of the ships. It struck a row of houses near the city walls. In an instant, the buildings turned into fire and smoke. The shockwave knocked people off their feet. Screams filled the air. Captain Zeller ran outside with his guards. He shouted orders. Form lines. Protect the council hall. But chaos was everywhere. Veltraxians ran in all directions. Some carried children. Others tried to pull injured friends from burning rubble. The human was dragged outside by 2 guards. His eyes widened in horror as he saw the destruction. No, this was never the plan, he muttered. They were supposed to wait. Hi. Elder Varn followed, shaking with anger. He grabbed the human's suit. Who are they? Why are they attacking us? The human's translator crackled weakly. They are from my world. But this is wrong. They were only to take resources, not destroy everything. Varn pushed him back. Lies. You brought them here to kill us. Before the human could answer, more explosions rocked. The city, one of the towers, broke in half, crashing into the streets below. Dust and screams rose up together. Then, small drones swooped down. They had long metal arms and blinking red eyes. They grabbed Veltraxians with strong claws, pulling them into the air. Some dropped from great heights, others were carried off toward the ships. Captain Zeller fired his energy spear at a drone. It sparked and fell, crashing into a fruit stand. "Everyone inside! Defend the hall," he shouted. Guards pulled the human back inside. The council members hid behind tall crystal pillars. The hall shook again and again as the city burned outside. Through a broken window, the human saw more dark ships landing at the edge of the city. Metal ramps dropped. Creatures in heavy black armor marched out. They carried large guns and strange scanning devices. The human closed his eyes. Earth forces. But why full attack? They were only supposed to scare you. I sent the abort signal. Captain Zeller turned to him, rage burning in his eyes. Then why didn't they stop? The human didn't answer. He just stared at his wrist device. The lights were dead. No signals going out. No help coming in. It's only silence. Suddenly, a loud boom hit the side of the hall. Part of the crystal wall broke, sending sharp pieces flying. A guard fell, his chest cut open. Blood stained the clean floor. Veltraxians screamed. Some council members ran for hidden doors. Zeller grabbed the human by the arm. "If you want to live, you come with us." They ran down a long hall into darker tunnels below the city. The human stumbled many times. He was weak in his mind, was full of guilt. He had never meant for this to happen, as Earth wanted Veltrax's resources. He had told him to plant the signal device. But he thought there would be talks, maybe small threats. Not this nightmare. After many turns, they stopped. In a hidden chamber, it was small, lit by blue crystals. From here, old screens showed parts of the city. Fires burned everywhere. Veltraxians fought with small hand weapons, no match for Earth's technology. The human sank to his knees. "It's all my fault." Captain Zeller raised his spear to strike him. "Yes, and for that, you will pay." But just then, an old voice spoke. High Elder Vaughn had followed them. He put a hand on Zeller's arm. "Wait, if he knows they're machines, maybe he can help us fight back." Zeller looked uncertain. The human looked up, hope mixed with fear in his eyes. "Would you truly help us, stranger?" Vierne asked. The human swallowed hard. "Yes, if you let me live, I will try to stop them. Somehow." Outside, more explosions shook the ground. The first strike was far from over, and in that dark hour, a tiny spark of alliance was born. The tunnels under Belverin buzzed with new energy. Veltraxians ran back and forth, carrying supplies and old weapons they had pulled from hidden storerooms. For the first time since the invasion, there was a spark of hope in their glowing eyes. "Captain?" Zeller moved through the crowd, giving sharp orders. Young warriors stood straighter when he passed. Even some of the older fighters looked ready to believe again. At the far end of the tunnel, David Mercer worked over an old console with 2 Veltraxian techs. His hands shook from exhaustion, but his mind was focused. All wires lay scattered all around. Sparks jumped as he tried to link his override chip to the system. A soft voice made him look up. Elder Vaughn stood there, hands folded. "How close are you?" Vaughn asked. David wiped sweat from his forehead. "Almost there, if this works. I can send false data to the Earth fleet. Make them think your planet is poisoned. Not worth the fight." Varn tilted his head. "And if it fails?" David swallowed hard. "Then we die faster." The elder's face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "You take this risk for us." "Why?" David closed his eyes. For a moment he saw burning towers, heard children scream. Then he opened them again. "So I can't erase what I've done, but maybe I can help stop more of it." Varn placed a hand on his shoulder, then finish it. "We stand with you." The message. David took a deep breath and pushed the final code into the console. The old screen flickered, lines of strange language running across it. Then a soft chime. "It's sending," David whispered. All around them, Veltraxians held their breath. David watched the lines scroll. The console sent out a pulse through the old mining relays, signals that would bounce into Earth's networks, tricking them with false data. Minutes passed like hours. Then the console beeped 3 times. David's mouth fell open. It worked. The Earth ships are shifting formations. Scans show they're pulling back to orbit. Cheers broke out in the tunnel. Veltraxians clapped each other on the back. Some hugged. Zeller even managed a small, grim smile. David let out a laugh that was half sob. Can't believe it. We might actually survive this. A desperate fight, but hope came with a price far above. 3 Earth command ships turned away, moving back toward deep space. But hundreds of drones and ground troops still filled the streets. They had not been given retreat orders yet. Many operated on local commands, unaware of the larger fleet's movements. David and Zeller knew what this meant. They will keep fighting on the ground, Zeller growled. Maybe to prove your poison story is false, David nodded. Then we need to hit them hard. Make them doubt even more. The Veltraxians formed teams. David stood with them, checking an old energy pistol someone had given him. Its handle was rough, designed for long Veltraxian fingers. It felt awkward in his human hand. Varn moved among his people, whispering blessings. He stopped before David. You carry more than our weapon. You carry our final trust. David tried to smile. Then I'll try not to drop it. Turning the tide, they burst out of the tunnels at dawn. Small bands of Veltraxians raced through side streets. David ran with Zeller's team toward a drone control post, a tall metal tower covered in blinking lights. It controlled local drones still hunting civilians. Blasts shook the ground. Earth soldiers fired from behind steel barriers. David ducked behind a broken cart. Zeller threw a grenade, a glowing blue crystal that exploded with a crack like thunder. Metal pieces of an Earth turret flew everywhere. Move! David shouted. They rushed the tower. Drones swooped down, their red eyes shining. David pulled up his pistol and fired. The beam hit a drone's engine. It spiraled into a building wall, exploding in sparks. Veltraxians climbed the tower with sharp claws, planting charges. Zeller fired into the sky, keeping drones back. Done. A young fighter called. They jumped down just as the charges blew. The tower folded in on itself, lights dying. All over the city, drones froze, then fell from the sky like dead insects. Cheers rose from nearby streets. Civilians came out, grabbing simple weapons, pushing back scattered Earth squads. David's heart swelled. The tide was turning. Short calm that night, fires still burned, but they were from Earth tanks and ships, not Veltraxian homes. Small victory fires lit the streets too. Groups of survivors gathered around them. Singing old songs of hope, David sat on a low wall, wrapping a bandage around a cut on his arm. Elder Varn joined him. You have given us more than tactics, Varn said softly. You have given us the will to keep living. David's throat tightened. Thank you, but it's not over. Earth could still send more. Varn nodded. True. But for now, we have this moment. And it is yours as well as ours. David looked around at the Veltraxians, laughing, hugging, crying. For the first time since he arrived on this planet, he felt he belonged. A shadow still waits far above. Beyond the thin blue sky, giant Earth warships still hovered. Some were moving away, but one massive ship stayed in place, silent, watching. David's eyes narrowed, his relief faded. Varn, I don't think they're done yet. The elder followed his gaze. Together, they stood in the rubble, a human and an alien side by side, waiting for whatever came next. The tunnels under Belverin were alive with whispers and hurried footsteps. Small blue lamps threw dancing shadows on the walls. Fear and anger hung in the air like a heavy fog. Veltraxian fighters gathered in small groups. Some polished old energy. Rifles. Others tied sharp crystal blades to wooden poles. Their faces were tired, but their eyes burned with the need to protect their home. In the center of one wide chamber, Captain Zeller stood over a rough table. A map of the city lay there, glowing softly. Elder Varn stood on one side. On the other side was David Mercer, the human who had once come to destroy them. Many warriors growled when they saw David. One even stepped forward. pointing a dagger at him. Why is he still alive? He is the reason our families are dead. Zeller held up a hand. Enough. This human knows the enemy. Without his help, we die even faster. The angry Veltraxian spat on the ground and stormed away, Ars muttered. But no one else stepped forward. David's heart beat hard in his chest. He could feel their hate like heat on his skin. Still, he took a deep breath and began. These ships here, he said, pointing to small marks on the map, are Earth's supply carriers. They're big, but not well armored. If we can take out just 2 or 3, their ground forces will run short on power and ammo. Varn leaned closer. And how do we strike them? We have no ships left. David nodded. We can't fight them in the sky, but they land to refuel, here at these old mining pads outside the city. If we set charges, we might destroy the ships. On the ground, Zeller's eyes narrowed. A clever plan, but dangerous. You want us to march out into open ground? As David said simply. But if we don't try, they'll crush you anyway. Varn looked at his captain, then back at David. We will need brave volunteers. David's face tightened. I'll go. It was my people who did this. I should be first. Zeller stared at him. For a moment it looked like he might refuse. Then he gave a small nod. Very well, human. You'll lead the strike. David felt a cold shiver. He had offered, but now the risk was real. Still, he couldn't back out. Not after everything he had done that night. Before the mission, David sat alone by a small lamp, checking the small override chip he carried. It was all he had. If he could reach a control node and plug it in, it might disable hundreds of drones. Or it might do nothing. Earth's tech was tricky, and Earth's commanders were cruel. They might have changed codes after suspecting betrayal. A soft sound made him look up. Elder Varn stood there, holding a bowl of steaming green liquid. Drink, Varn said. It will give you strength. David took it with shaking hands. Thank you for trusting me, at least a little. Varn sat down across from him. Trust is still hard. Many of my people would see your head on a spike. But I have watched you. Your guilt is real. David's eyes lowered. Yes, too real. Every scream I hear. That's like a knife. Good, Varn said. It means you still have a heart. Now let us see if your courage is real too. The next morning, a small group of Veltraxian fighters moved quietly through the ruins at dawn. David led them, his eyes scanning for Earth patrols. His body felt heavy, his stomach sick with fear. At his side was Zeller, silent but watchful. Behind them, young warriors carried packs filled with explosive charges made from old mining tools. In crystals, they reached the edge of the city. Beyond lay open fields with 3 large Earth ships resting on landing legs. Small lights blinked along their hulls. Drones buzzed in lazy circles. David knelt behind a fallen wall. Stay low. When we're close enough, I'll draw off the drones. Then you plant the charges. Zeller grunted. If you fail, we all die. David gave a sad smile. Story of my life. Then he took a deep breath and ran. Alarms blared almost at once. His drones turned, red eyes glowing. David pulled out a small signal jammer and waved it. It buzzed loudly, pulling the drones toward him. Come on, you metal bastards. He shouted. Laser beams cut the ground near his feet. Dust flew into his eyes. He kept running, leading the swarm away. Behind him, Zeller's team raced to the ships. They worked quickly, placing charges on the fuel ports. One young fighter was hit by a stray drone beam. He fell without a sound. David glanced back, heart hammering. The charges were set. Now he just needed to survive. He ducked behind a rock, slamming the jammer down. It sparked and exploded. The drones spun in confusion. Some fell, their systems overloaded. Zeller raised a hand. His warriors pressed triggers. Boom. The Earth ships burst into fire, torn apart by crystal blasts. Flames rose high, black smoke curling into the sky. David felt heat wash over him. For a moment, he almost smiled. Then an angry shout. Earth soldiers appeared, firing bright blue. Bolts. David ran back toward the Veltraxians. Zeller grabbed his arm. Move, more will come. Together they raced back toward the tunnels. Behind them, the wreckage of the ships burned. An alliance born in fire that night, in the deep tunnels. Veltraxians gathered around David. Some still glared, but others touched his shoulder in thanks. Elder Varn nodded. Today you struck down your own people's machines. You've earned a place with us for now. David took a shaking breath. The war was far from over, but for the first time he felt he was no longer just the destroyer. Maybe, just maybe, he could become something better. The city of Belverin was a broken place. Towers lay in pieces, smoke still curled into the sky. Streets were cracked and burned. But among the ruins, Veltraxians stood tall again, gripping old weapons with new fire in their eyes. David Mercer walked beside Captain Zeller through what was left of the market square. They passed small groups of Veltraxians tending to wounded, building barriers from rubble. Even children carried stones and water. Their faces were tired, but determined high. Elder Varn waited by a half-fallen statue. His robe was torn, his eyes sunken from sleepless nights. When David approached, the elder managed a small nod. "The people are ready," Varn said quietly. "They know this may be the end, but they would rather die fighting than live as slaves." David's heart twisted. He had brought this war here. Now these people trusted him to help end it. Above them, the last Earth Command ship hung like a dark moon. It had not left with the others. Instead, it stayed close to Veltrax, silent and cold. But in the last hour, lights had begun to glow along its hull. Engines rumbled. Something was coming. The enemy's Mauve's sudden roar filled the air. David looked up sharply. Streams of small drop pods shot down from the giant ship, glowing. Hot as they punched through the clouds, they slammed into the ground across the city. Metal doors popped open, and squads of heavy-armored Earth troopers stepped out. Weapons glowing blue dot at the same time, fresh drones flew down faster and deadlier than the earlier ones. They zipped through the streets, scanning, searching for any life. David's throat went dry. They're launching a full ground sweep. They must want to wipe out any last resistance. Zeller's jaw tightened. Then we meet them in the open. No more hiding. Elder Varn touched David's arm. "You have given us chances we never imagined, but now it comes to courage alone. Will you stand with us one last time?" David gripped his old energy pistol. His voice was firm. To the very end, battle begins, they chose to hold. The city's central plaza was wide, with broken towers around its edges that made good cover. Veltraxians lined up in rough ranks. Some had rifles, others just crystal-tipped spears. But their eyes burned bright. David ran among them, helping. Set small mines they had built from mining charges. Zeller took command, shouting orders, placing fighters where they were strongest. Then the Earth soldiers came. They marched in heavy boots, shoulder lamps cutting bright beams through the dust. Drones flew ahead, scanning. The first line of Veltraxians waited, shaking with fear. David's heart thundered in his chest. A drone beeped, then exploded as it flew over a hidden mine. Shards flew everywhere. That was the signal. "Now," Zeller roared. Energy bolts and crystal spears flew. David ducked behind a wall, firing shot after shot at Earth troopers. Sparks burst from their armor. Some fell, others pushed on. Blew. Bolt slammed into the wall next to David's head, sending sharp stones into his cheek. Veltraxians surged forward with wild cries. They slammed into earth lines, stabbing with crystal blades, pulling soldiers down. Drones spun around, trying to shoot, but more fell to hidden charges. David saw a group of troopers break through the left side. He ran toward them, pistol blazing. One turned and aimed at him. David dropped just as a Veltraxian girl leaped from behind rubble, driving a spear into the soldier's neck. The girl turned to David, her eyes wide with fear. Then she smiled. Just for a moment before racing back into the fight, a desperate struggle. Hours passed like years. The plaza was chaos, screams, flashes of light, bodies everywhere. David's pistol was hot in his hand. His arms ached. Zeller fought near him, swinging a heavy staff that cracked armor like glass. But more Earth forces kept coming. From the great ship above, fresh pods still rained down. Each impact shook the ground. At last a deep hum filled the air. David looked up, and his blood ran cold. A massive hover tank was dropping from the mothership. Its belly opened, revealing a huge cannon. Zeller grabbed David's shoulder. "We cannot fight that. We'll burn the entire plaza." David's mind raced. Then he remembered. The override chip had still sat in his pocket, if he could reach. The tank's main node, maybe he could shut it down. "I'm going," David shouted. He broke into a run before Zeller could stop him. Bullets and energy blasts flew past him. He zigzagged, heart slamming against his ribs. The tank's cannon charged, glowing bright white. David reached it, dove under. He ripped open a service hatch and jammed the chip inside. Lights inside flickered, then flared bright. Come on, come on." Suddenly the cannon went dark. The tank shook, then powered down completely. A cheer rose across the plaza. Veltraxians saw the machine die and attacked with fresh fury. Earth soldiers, now leaderless and confused, began to fall back. The stand holds when the last drone crashed. And the last Earth trooper fell or fled. A strange quiet took over the plaza. Smoke drifted lazily. Fires burned low. Veltraxians moved among the wounded, lifting friends. Whispering prayers over the dead, David stood near the tank, leaning heavily. Against it, breath coming in painful gasps. Blood dripped from a cut on his side, but he barely felt it. Zeller came up, placing a hand on David's shoulder. For the first time, he smiled, tired but real. "You did it, human. Without you, we would have been dust." With tears, no. We did it together. Elder Varn appeared, resting his hand on both of them. His voice was soft. "This was the final stand. And we still stand." The sky above Belverin turned pink with the rising sun. For the first time in many days, there were no enemy ships floating in the sky. No drones buzzed through the streets. No heavy boots marched on stone roads. Only silence. And the breath. Of survivors, smoke still drifted from broken buildings. Fires still crackled in the corners. But the people of Veltrax were no longer hiding in tunnels or running from machines. They were out in the open now, wounded, tired, heartbroken, but alive. David Mercer stood at the edge of the central plaza, watching the sunrise with quiet. Eyes, his clothes were torn, blood stained his shirt, and a bandage wrapped his arm. Every muscle in his body ached. But in his heart, there was peace. Captain Zeller approached, his armor scratched and dented. He said nothing for a moment.
Just
Stood beside David, watching the light grow across the ruined city. Then Zeller spoke. "Most of us thought this day would never come." David gave a small nod. "Honestly, neither did I." Zeller looked at him. "You came here as a destroyer, but now, many call you a hero." David turned to him, pain in his eyes. "I'm not a hero. I was part of the machine that started. This war, I can never forget that." Zeller didn't argue. He simply said, "But you helped us finish it. That matters too." A message from the stars later that morning, the last Earth ship sent a message. It was short and cold. "All ground forces lost. Beacon reports contamination. Planet declared unsafe. All Earth ships retreating. Human subject David Mercer. Marked for termination." The message ended with silence. High Elder Varn read it aloud. To the people, many cheered. Others looked at David with new respect. He had risked everything, even his life, to help them. David listened quietly, then walked away from the crowd. He sat alone on a stone step, staring at the sky where Earth ships had vanished. Now he was truly alone. A traitor to his own kind, a stranger to this world. But then he heard footsteps. Elder Varn stood behind him, holding a walking staff. "You are not alone," the elder said softly. David looked up, surprised. "You gave us hope," Varn continued. "And more than that, you gave us your heart. Not all humans are like you, perhaps. But we will remember the one who stayed and fought beside us." David's voice cracked. "What happens now?" Varn smiled faintly. "We rebuild, we bury. The dead, we plant new trees. We teach our children the truth. that even in war, kindness can survive. David wiped his eyes. And what about me? Varn placed a hand on his shoulder.
Yeah,
You stay, not as a soldier, not as an enemy, but as one of us. If you choose it. David looked at the broken city, the people lifting stones, the children laughing again. He nodded slowly. I choose it. Rebuilding Veltraxen. The days that followed, Veltrax began to rise from its ruins. David helped repair power lines and clean streets. He worked beside young warriors who once hated him. Slowly they began to speak with him, joke with him, taught them. He taught them how to build better shields. He helped design warning systems in case another ship ever came. He trained them not for war, but for peace, through strength. Children would run up to him and ask, "Are you the human who stopped the giant machine?" He would smile and say, "No, that was a team effort." The garden one evening, David stood near a small garden being planted outside the city. Young plants grew in neat rows. Veltraxian children laughed as they watered the leaves with glowing drops. Elder Varn joined him again. You seem different, the elder said. David nodded. I feel different. For the first time in my life, I'm not running. I'm not hiding behind orders. I'm here. I belong. Varn looked at the garden. Then this is where your story truly begins. The legacy in the Hall of Records. A crystal tablet was placed. It read, no one escaped the battle, except the human who started it. But in staying, he saved more lives than he ever planned to take. He was not a hero when he came, but he became one when he chose to stay. Beneath the words, a name was carved in both Veltraxian and Earth script. David Mercer, friend of Veltrax, guardian of peace. The end. And in beginning as the sun set over Belvern once more, David walked through the quiet city. Its lights flickered gently in windows. Songs floated through the air. He stopped near the edge of the great crater, where the last Earth tank had fallen. He whispered to the wind, I'm still here, and I'm not leaving. Above him, stars began to shine. Some were Earth's stars. Others were unknown. But all of them now watched over a world that had stood its ground, and forgiven the one who tried to break it.